Hi and welcome to another Stu Magoo advice video. Today we are going to be looking at personal independence payment. So this video is divided into three parts. This is part one. We will be looking at the three different stages of applying for personal independence payment in each section. Okay, so in this first section we're going to look at the reasons why you might apply for personal independence payment and the sort of common issues with that, and also what you need in a basic way to make the first stage of the application. The next video, for some maybe the more important one, is the step-by-step instructions on how to complete the form using the descriptors and everything else, so that you sort of maximise the chance of getting the right level of benefit for you. And the third video, we're going to look at the face-to-face health assessment that a person applying for personal independence payment will have to go through in most circumstances. And that assessment may happen at your home, or it may happen in an external location. So we'll chat through the what that is, what it means, and how to sort of best get through that experience. So like I say, this video is more sort of looking at the sort of initial stages of applying for the benefit. So the benefit itself is paid to people under the age of 65 who have a disability or health condition that's affecting them and their daily living activities in a significant way. Now, it could be absolutely any kind of health problem or disability, but it has to be sort of affecting you quite significantly throughout the day. Now, the benefit is divided into two sections. So you have the care component and you have the mobility component. So with the care component, they're looking at how either you look after yourself or how someone else looks after you throughout the day, and how you manage your conditions and how you manage doing your daily living tasks with those conditions affecting you. So it might be that you use specialist equipment that helps you do things, or it might be that you take longer, or that it causes you pain, or that you need to recover afterwards. There's a multitude of things that is covered in the care section, and it is the sort of larger part of filling in the form. The other aspect that's assessed is your mobility, your ability to get around, to do things in terms of getting yourself from A to B, first of all, but also in terms of how you move around your own home, how you get in and out of chairs, how you sort of physically do anything really. And so the mobility section is, although it's literally just one question in the form, it is one of the more kind of important sections in many ways, and for a lot of people. So there's issues that come with it just on its own. So it might be that you apply for PIP and you qualify for the care but not the mobility, or you might qualify for the mobility component but not the care component. Could be either, or could be both. So it really depends, and it depends a lot on how that form's put together, and also how the assessment goes when you have the face-to-face assessment. So when you go through the face-to-face assessment, they may get you to do some small physical movements in order to ascertain how your mobility is affecting you. But they're nothing to worry about really. There are some issues that are widely debated about the administration of the Personal Independence Payment and whether or not it's correctly, whether the assessments are correct. So there is a very strong chance that even if you demonstrate very well the issues that you're facing, that you will still be found not to qualify for some reason. Quite often that happens and people have to go through the appeals process, which starts with doing what they call a mandatory reconsideration first, and then possibly moves on to an appeal after that. For a lot of people that can be quite stressful, and so what I always suggest is whoever you are, and whether you're applying for PIP for the first time or transferring from DLA over to PIP, or something like that, or maybe you're a child that's just become an adult and transferring from DLA to PIP. Whatever it is, even if you're quite experienced with applying for benefits, try and get somebody to support you with doing it. Don't do it yourself. These videos will be there to help people essentially who can't do it themselves, or don't have access to those services. But if you can, even if it's just a friend to help you go through and check everything and make sure you've got the right level of detail in there, just as a sounding board, whatever it is, just get a bit of extra support with it. And again, the same with the face-to-face meeting. As long as when they book the meeting, if you've got somebody that you can have with you, make sure that they know that that person's going to be there. But by all means, have somebody with you to support you, whether that's emotional support or just to kind of have that sort of second memory to kind of confirm things. Did she say that? Did I say that? What was said? What happened there? Things like that really helps if you've got somebody sort of with you. So where possible, try not to do it on your own. In quite a lot of cases, I can't quite say the majority, but just about the majority of cases, when people have demonstrated through the form and through the assessment well enough that they do have the illness, not that whether or not they do have the illnesses or disabilities, but that those illnesses and disabilities affect them in a certain way, and that has significant impact on their day-to-day living, they're able to demonstrate that properly, then usually those things go through without too much problem, and people get some benefit, if maybe not the exact right amount in the first instance. And there is tweaking that needs to be done, considerable tweaking that needs to be done in the assessment side of things. As far as I'm concerned, and many other disability campaigners and support services, are kind of in agreement on that. But it is changing all the time, and there are improvements that do happen with the system. So don't be disheartened from applying. Okay, if you've got extra support, brilliant. But if not, doesn't really matter. It's still important that you apply. And just like I say, give it a go. It's not going to do you any harm to give it a go if you've never done it before. And if you're transferring from DLA over to PIP, don't panic, because actually doing this might be a good thing. You might actually end up getting more money, and it might be that you claimed for DLA 20 years ago and actually things have got worse for you since then, and demonstrating again to these people that actually your conditions have got worse might lead to you qualifying for a mobility payment that you previously didn't, or a care payment that you previously didn't. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you apply for it, it's all going to go wrong. So that's the important thing to remember. So the next thing we'll talk about, and I'll move on to, is of course applying for PIP in the first place, actually getting that ball rolling and what you'll need. So now I'm going to have a go at putting some graphics on the screen, either on this side or that side, or maybe at the bottom here, to just sort of basically give you a list of things that you need. If I don't manage that, then below in the comments there will be a list of the things that you need. There's also a list of things that you need before you make the phone call on gov.uk. So the most important thing that you're going to need, first of all, is your identifying information, and the best thing for this is your national insurance number. Dig it out from wherever it is. It could be most likely on some tax information or any letters you've had from the Department of Work and Pensions. Obviously, if you're in employment, it may well be on your payslip, and if you are not in employment, maybe you're on ESA or Universal Credit or Job Seekers Allowance, something like that. If you're receiving any documentation about that, it'll be on there, or it'll be used as the reference number for any payments going into your bank account that are coming from the DWP. So, sort that one out first of all. Obviously you'll have your name and address and everything like that. You'll need that. You'll also need your bank details. Now it may well be that in the future you are successful with the payment. You need that to go into a bank account. There's, as far as I'm aware, no real other way of getting it. If you haven't got a bank account but you've got a post office or building society account, then that will probably be fine. But if you, as far as I'm aware, they don't pay by cheque unless it's very strange circumstances. You will also need to have details of your GP. So if you have a preferred GP or a assigned GP, then great, but if you don't have a specific name for a specific GP, that doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is the medical centre that you registered with for your primary care support. So they'll possibly ask the last time you went to see them, your GP or anyone at the surgery for any reason. So it might be that you just pop in for a blood test, or maybe you're getting diabetic eye screening or something like that. Whatever the last appointment was that took you into your health centre, that's the date you need to give. And it doesn't need to be exact, it could be last month, because if they get your medical records, then they'll corroborate anything, so that's fine. The other thing you'll need to bear in mind as well is if you are suffering with a terminal condition and you have been informed that you have less than 6 months to live, then it's possible for you to fast track your application. To do that, you will need a form called the DS1500. Okay, it's a form that, generally speaking, is rarely issued by anybody, and trying to get a doctor to sign one of these things is very, very difficult, because generally speaking, doctors don't like to say you've got less than 6 months to live, because sometimes it turns out that people live a lot longer, and mistakes are made. So they only say it unless they're very, very sure. But if the doctor has said that, but is, struggling with putting their name to it, then just sort of maybe explain what the benefit is, because I think the same system was used for DLA, but DLA could be a permanent award, where that person is given that until the end of their life, and if it's left and not checked, then that continues, and if the person lives, maybe even gets better, then that money will keep going out into their bank account. So there's things like that as an issue, but that's not the same with PIP. PIP is often reassessed quite frequently. So if a doctor has any issues about somebody sort of continually receiving money that they might not be due because of a misdiagnosis, then it will be picked up pretty quickly, well, reasonably quickly, within 3 years anyway. But certainly the benefits of having personal independence payments are quite high, because it is essentially your way of proving that you are disabled to many kind of people. So having a chat with whoever your GP or your specialist is and talking to them about that form, if you have been given a sort of short predicted lifespan based on the condition that you've developed, then certainly talk to them about that process. So if you, like I say, if you are going to do that, you will need that information at this point in the application, and you'll be required to submit that sort of pretty much straight away. But if you do that, you won't have to fill out the form, and you won't have to do the face-to-face appointment, so it is quite important. Final thing to bear in mind is if you are not originally a British national, then you will need to have information about your settled status and any other immigration information that's needed. And obviously, if you've been abroad for more than 2 months at a time in the last 4 years, you'll need to inform them of that as well. So gather all that information together before you make the phone call. Phone call lasts about 20 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on what needs to be discussed. If you've got difficulty with the phone call, ask someone to be there with you. As I say, as long as you can identify yourself, they'll be quite happy with doing that. Once the phone call's complete, they will send you your forms. They usually take a week or so to arrive after that, and then you've got about 4 weeks to get them filled in. If you are going to be looking for a professional to support you making the application, then speak to the professional before you make that initial phone call, so that you can work out whether they have the time to fit you in within 4 weeks. It might be that they have a month to a 2 month waiting list, or possibly longer, for when they can get to you to fill out the form. So it's best to check that first before doing it, because if it transpires that you can't get it done in time, it can affect your benefit and your payment, make things more complicated. So if you are going to approach Age UK or the CAB or the Stroke Association or Macmillan or whoever to support you with that form, make sure you do it before you do this phone call. And it may be that they support you with the initial phone call and application anyway. So hopefully my other video will be sort of popping up in the sidebar for you to see, part 2. You like I say, are advisable to get support with filling out the form, but if you don't have that support available, or you're quite happy to do it on your own, you just want a little bit of extra guidance, do stop by for part 2, and we'll go over everything you need to know for that. So thanks very much for listening.